Dr. Kinsella has a lot of experience with educators, students, English language learners. And we are very excited that you get to hear her just like we did earlier, where the teachers from all different school sites came to hear her message about how important it is for your child to use academic language in the classroom and outside of the classroom. So I'm going to give the mic over to Dr. Kinsella.
All right. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here, although I'm going to spend part of the time up here because I have video to show you that I want to show from my computer, but later I want to come down to talk with you and to tell you just a little bit about my background. I was a professor at San Francisco State University and also a guest professor at Stanford for 3 years. And my area of passion and expertise is language development, and especially English as a second language, but focusing on how can we help children, no matter what their background, to really develop the language skills, to really be able to fulfill their dreams. And I'm a specialist in bilingual education as well, and all of my work has been about helping prepare children to have opportunities because of language. So when they asked me to come speak to the parent university, I was very happy. When I was at Stanford 15 years ago, I did about 15 seminars for high school teachers in this district because they asked me to come in and work with their teachers to help their students who were immigrant students to do a lot better in their classes. So it's wonderful to speak to parents of elementary and middle school students. My title, Say It Like a Scholar, I want to explain why. When you say someone is a scholar in English, it is a compliment. It is a very positive thing to say. A scholar is someone who's a very serious student. A scholar is someone who's passionate about a topic, whether it is exercise or vegetarian cooking or language learning. A scholar is someone who really cares about learning and cares about a topic and likes to talk about it and write about it. So in all of my projects, our goal is to help every child really be able to talk and write like the top student, like a scholar. And I selected this picture because this young teenager is one of the most famous teenagers in the world right now. She is from Sweden, and she has been helping politicians like our own president, presidents from across the world, scientists understand how our climate is changing and how serious that is for young children like herself. So Greta Thunberg, she embodies what a scholar is, and she's very comfortable speaking and writing about topics. I am fortunate that I recently have received 3 big research grants from the US Department of Education. I just finished 2 projects in middle school, and our goal was to really help middle school students who are immigrant students with one project, to help students reclassify to be proficient in English and also to be super strong speakers and writers. And we did this in the Los Angeles area with 400 students, and we were extremely successful. Because we were successful, the government said, listen, we'd love you to do another project. So we had a project in 4 states, including California, focusing on children from poverty, as well as immigrant students, to help advance their language. And we were very successful, so they said, listen, do you think you could do what you did with middle school with primary grades? So right now, I have a project all across California in many districts where we're working in kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, to help children really build their language and teaching teachers how to do that. I'm going to show you some clips from San Jose and also from Fresno. This happens to be in Los Angeles. This is a teacher who is only 23 years old, just learning to be a teacher, and one of the best kindergarten teachers we've worked with. All of the children in the class speak Spanish as their home language, and all of them are coming from a rural community. So I want you to watch her telling them what they're going to do with their lesson, and listen to what the children say about how they're going to speak. I'm going to show some video of her getting them to discuss their topic, and you're going to see them working with a partner and speaking like a young scholar. Here we go.
Everyone sitting up like? We've been discussing seasons and weather in our domain, and so today we will be having a discussion talking about our preference between winter and summer.
All right, so we can see Ms. Portillo was telling them what they're going to be learning about and that we're going to be speaking like scholars. Now, let's watch the children. She's already gotten them to discuss with their partners. Let's watch them speaking in the whole class and watch what Ms. Portillo is doing. We're going to see her lead the whole class in talking about this topic.
Okay, my first pre-selected student is Melanie. Before Melanie shares, go ahead and stand. Before Melanie shares, let's make sure we are showing our 4 L's. Melanie, deliver. Remember, I prefer.
I prefer winter because it is cold and I can make a snowman.
And they were saying what season they prefer.
We are now going to echo what Melanie said. Everyone ready? I prefer. Remember, when we echo read, Ms. Portillo goes first and then you go. Ready? I prefer.
I prefer
Winter.
winter
Because
because
it is cold.
it is cold
And
and
I can build a snowman.
I can build a snowman.
My next pre-selected is Tamara. Remember, we are showing Tamara our 4 L's. Remember your public voice, Tamara.
I prefer summer because it is warm and I can drink lemonade.
Can you say that one more time, Tamara, so that we could all hear your original response? Go ahead.
I prefer summer because it is warm and I can play outside.
Okay, let's echo what Tamara said. Are we ready? Remember, I go first, and then you echo it right after me. I prefer summer
I prefer summer
because
because
it is warm
it is warm
and
and
I can
I can
play outside.
play outside.
Tamara, will you stand? You are going to select someone from this side of the room. Remember, you are using our frame, I select.
I select Alondra.
Stand and deliver, Alondra.
I prefer sunny because it is warm and I can drink lemonade.
Okay, let's say that one more time, Alondra. And the season, are you referring to summer? Okay, so you will say, I prefer summer. Let's say that again.
I prefer summer because it is hot and I can drink lemonade.
Thank you for your unique response, Alondra. We will now echo, eyes on me. I prefer summer because it is hot and I can drink Thank you for your contribution, Alondra. Alondra.
I'm going to stop there. This technique I'm going to model a little bit later. This technique is called echo reading. When you want them to practice saying something, it's helpful to get you saying, I prefer winter, and getting them to say, I prefer winter because it is cold, and chunking those words and letting them practice before they share. Now, I wanted to take a moment to tell you a little bit about my own children. We have two beautiful children, both of whom are adopted. And our daughter, we adopted when I was living here and teaching at Stanford. She is now 19 years old and in college. She studies at Wellesley College in Boston. And when we adopted her, I was teaching at Stanford. And I put her in the preschool there. But they said, Dr. Kinsella, respectfully, we have a little problem. And I said, what is that? They said, your daughter is very intelligent, but every day in class, she tells us, I already know that. Yes, I already know that. And I said, I know, we're working on that, I'm sorry. They said, but the reality is she does know. She knows how to read. We have a suggestion. Can we we want to put her in the Spanish kindergarten. That way, but unfortunately, within about 8 weeks, she was saying, I already know that in Spanish. But she is able to learn language easily, and she loves languages and loves learning about different languages. Our daughter was from Vietnam, and she was only 4 months old when we were able to bring her home, so she was very young. When she was 5 years old, we decided we really wanted to adopt another child. I come from a big family. I have 7 brothers and sisters, and my spouse has 4 brothers and sisters, and we wanted her to have a sibling. But we felt, you know, I'm at Stanford, my spouse directs a hospital, we can afford to adopt a child who will have a difficult time being adopted. And we said, we don't care if it's a boy or girl. We don't care if the child has medical problems. We can handle that. We just want to make sure that the child is not older than our daughter. So in about 2 weeks, they called, and I was actually teaching. And normally, I don't answer my cell phone. And I thought, maybe it's my mother because she was ill. And so I had the phone ready, and I was in San Diego, where my mother lives, and I thought, oh no, something's the matter. But instead, it was my mother saying, you have an important call. You know, they are calling you, and they were calling from Guatemala. And they said, listen, Dr. Kinsella, we read about your family, and we have the perfect child for you. He is a beautiful boy. And this is my son, Juan Carlos. He's now 17. But they said, this young boy, and this was him. I went down 2 weeks later to meet him. They said, he refuses to speak, but he's very intelligent. But he refuses. He won't say anything. And we read about you, and we know your daughter is in a bilingual school, and we know your spouse speaks some Spanish. My spouse is from the Philippines and speaks Spanish, Mandarin, and Tagalog, and English. And they said, if anyone can get him to talk, it will be you. So the rest is history. He is my sweetheart. He's my Valentine. And if you can see him here, he looks a lot happier. He's a lot happier. And the very first day I was with him, I got him to talk. And my daughter sent a special toy, a little teddy bear from her. So when it was time for the children to take their nap, and mind you, there were 60 children, all babies and infants. And when it was time to take the nap, he was in a room with about 8 other little boys. And it was, you know, clean beds, but the nanny, the nurse in charge, she said, they need to sleep now, but you can tuck him in, but you need to leave. So I said, that's fine. And I said, may I sit and talk to him just for a moment? Because he seems very excited that I'm here. And she said yes, but maybe just 2 minutes. So when she left, she said, oh, and I have to take this toy with me because they're not supposed to have toys in bed. And she put the little osito in a cupboard. So I sat down and my son had his blanket up and I whispered in his ear, do you think you could sleep if I went and got the little bear out of the cupboard and brought it back and put it under the sheet? And he pulled the sheet down and looked to see if she was there, and he pulled me very close and he said, "Si, mama." And that was the first time he talked to me, and every day since he's been talking more. But helping him as a young boy, and we're very proud, our daughter graduated from high school 1 year ago, #1 in her class, but see these chords? In California, when you graduate from high school, if you are bilingual and you really speak Vietnamese and English, or Mandarin and English, or Spanish and English, and you pass the tests and your teachers verify that you are bilingual, you can graduate with the seal of biliteracy, a very special honor. And she graduated with the seal of biliteracy in Spanish, English, and French. I taught her French. And now, because when she was 16, she was so good with language, one of her professors said, you should apply for this program to study over the summer, because the US government will pay for students to go study in places like China or Africa. So she went to Morocco, and now she speaks Arabic very well. She's been studying Arabic for 3 years. So we're very proud, and our son, I've been working with him, he is going to graduate bilingual, Spanish-English, with the seal of biliteracy. But when you start speaking late, he was 4 when he started really talking, it affects your learning. It delays your reading, and I'm going to be sharing a lot of my suggestions as a parent who had to really help her child and work with teachers. Because do you see how cute he is? He is very cute and very sweet. With that big smile, he could get away with so many things. So we'd find out, he didn't finish this project, Leticia Perez did. He didn't do this, Ramon, his friend, did. So I'm going to be sharing some suggestions about what you can do with your child. Now, I'm going to ask you, let's turn our attention. I'm going to kind of change the order that I was going to share some ideas. Let's turn our attention. I'm going to ask you, can you please turn to page 11? Please turn to page 11. All right. This is a picture of my son, Juan Carlos, when he was 8, with our dog, Polo, who now has crossed the Rainbow Bridge. He is no longer with us. But this was his best friend because he was a cute dog, but he also didn't make him talk. He just would play with him. And I'm showing this picture because in 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, throughout elementary school, when he got the homework assignment that you have to take the new words and put them in a sentence and draw a picture, let's look at his sentences. Here you see poor Polo not looking too happy. Here's Polo. Every sentence for his vocabulary homework was about Polo. And if you look at the word, for example, frustration, that means that you are really not happy and having a difficult time. Notice his sentence, Polo, always frustration. And that is not a good picture, but it's also not a good sentence. It showed me he does not understand the vocabulary. And vocabulary is so important to learning, but often teachers are teaching vocabulary while they're working on a story, and they just stop and talk about it. But if you're an English learner, you're sitting and having to listen to all that. So I'm going to make some suggestions to you about how to help your children with vocabulary. And we're going to look at a video clip. This is a first grade teacher in one of my projects. And I'm going to show you what it looks like to teach a word really well. And we're going to see her teaching the word. Then we're going to see her helping them use the word. All right? And the word they are learning is imagine. Let's all say that, imagine. And often teachers just say imagine means to think about in your mind what it's like. But the children don't see the word. They just listen to that. Then the teacher will say something like, well, what kind of people do you want to be when you grow up? What do you imagine yourself to be? And then one child might say a cowboy, and one child might say a filmmaker, and one child might say a famous chef. But I'll tell you what, parents, they are not using the word imagine. They're just talking about it. So we're going to see the teacher explain what imagine means, and notice how she's getting them to look at the word, and then she gives them this sentence frame. We like to imagine that we are, and she models brave astronauts. Then you're going to see her give them some words and say, let's think of a strong adjective, a describing word, as well as a noun. And we're going to see her say, I think I'm going to make my example be pretty teachers, because I think those words go together. So what I want you to observe is how clearly she's teaching the word, but also helping them to use it. Let's watch this.
Would you turn your paper over? We have a new frame today. Put your guide card under frame number 3. Reading guide card under frame number 3. We're going to echo read that frame. Are you ready? Yes. We like to imagine that we are blank. Do you see the words that are word partners that we underlined? Yes. We did that on Monday. We underlined our word partners. Let's do it again with our pencil. The word partners are imagine that. Those are words that we often see together. Imagine that. Today, we are going to be imagining two things. We're going to imagine an adjective. Please put an A under your line for adjective. Adjectives are words that describe. What do they describe? They describe a noun. So we're going to have not just a noun, but a plural noun. That means more than one.
Right. So now we're going to see her give them some vocabulary to help them, because raise your hand if your child is ever a little bit insecure, doesn't have an idea. And I know my son would always be looking to see what other students are saying. So to give them a confidence bank and to remind them of some words. Because also many students are very intelligent and very gifted, but just a little bit lazy. So to push them to think about something more advanced and more interesting. Let's watch how she does that.
We could imagine other things, though. I have some ideas for you. Let's look up here, and I'm going to show you some adjectives you could use besides fearless? Let's echo read some adjectives. Are you ready? Listen. Pretty.
Pretty.
We could be pretty. Strong.
Strong.
Brave.
Brave.
Scary.
Scary.
Furry.
Furry.
Now we can pair those adjectives with these plural nouns. So instead of just having teachers, hold on, we're going to echo read it with this adjective because I think they go together. Are you ready? Hold on. Pretty teachers.
Pretty teachers.
Okay, she reads the other ones with them. But let's see the children now. They had a chance to talk with their partner, but now she's going to have them come up. And instead of just saying, who wants to share, she walked around and she placed a star on 3 children's desk, meaning you will go first. And then watch, she lets the children select someone else to come up. So let's watch what she does. And notice how confident they are speaking, but also she's given them a job. You have to listen. Because many children just want to speak, but they don't pay attention to other people. So watch how she gives them a listening job.
All right, Desiree, would you go on up and would you share your idea with us? This was her and Enrique. This was their idea. All right, like a scholar, honey, we like to imagine.
We like to imagine that we are furry bunnies. So you imagine furry bunnies. Yes, that's right.
All right, Andy, would you go up? Like a scholar.
We like to imagine that we are pretty cats.
So you imagine pretty cats.
Yes, that's right.
Molly.
We like to imagine that we are furry cats.
So you imagine furry cats.
Yes, that's correct.
Molly, since we're working on responsible, would you choose a responsible friend? Gavin, I need you to wait over there, honey. Would you choose a responsible friend to share their idea?
I said my responsible friend, Frankie. Hi, Frankie. We like to imagine that we are furry dogs.
So you imagine furry dogs.
Yes, that's right.
All right, so some of the techniques she was using, when we just say who wants to share, then the same students are responding, but many of our children who are a little bit shy or need more time to think of their idea just kick back and don't really contribute. I'd like to offer some suggestions to you if you want your child to graduate with honors and to also have a chance to be bilingual. They need to develop their English abilities as well as other home language abilities. I'm going to offer some suggestions that were successful with my own children, but especially my son, who needed more attention. On page 11, I have these slides. The first thing we noticed with our son was if I would say, "Sweetheart, how was your day?" he would say, "Fine." "How was lunch?" "You bought lunch today." "Okay." "How was your test?" "Hard." "Do you have homework?" "No." "Are you hungry?" "Yeah." "Mom, how was English?" "Mom, school's over." And raise your hand if ever your child just answers in one word. Okay? So I have some suggestions, all right? Instead, after school, the first thing I do is just give him a snack, give him a special snack and let him relax a little bit. And wait till he's relaxed a little bit and say, all right, I'd like you to tell me something interesting you learned today. In PE, in physical education, in art, in music, in English, in math. What was something interesting you learned that you remember? And tell me something you tried your best to complete, even if it was hard, and you didn't do that great of a job. Tell me something that was surprising. And all small children I work with, they love to tattle on other children. And what I mean by tattling is they love to say, Dr. Kinsella, Enrique is sharpening his pencil again. You need to go stop him. They like to sort of say what other children did that was naughty. So when my son was in elementary school and daughter, they had colors like green, yellow, red. So if you did something a little naughty, like you kept talking or you kept getting out of your seat, the teacher would move your card from green to yellow. And then if you did something again, like you got out of your seat again to sharpen a pencil and she said no, it went to red. So I found walking our dog with my son, I would say, so sweetie, did anybody get yellow cards today? And he's like, yes. And he would tell me the whole story. It's like, this is a way to get, did anybody have behavior that was not appropriate? Yes, of course, never my son, only other children. But that became one way to get him to tell a story. But also letting him tell me about recess today. Who did you play with? What did you do? So letting him talk about something fun, but to get language. Another thing I learned from his best friend, Alex Martinez, his mother. He said, when I spent the night at Alex's at dinner, the first thing they talk about is their rose and their thorn. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, a rose is something happy that happened at school, something good, and a thorn is something bad that happened, something not so happy. So we started doing that, and all of us at the dinner table would say, tell me your rose today, something that made you happy, something that made you proud. And I had to work with my spouse. You have to think about it before dinner. So you think about it, and me too, to talk about that. And tell me about your thorns, something a little bit difficult, or maybe a little sad, or maybe disappointing. Another thing was, tell me about something that made you proud today at school, or happy, something that made you proud. And sometimes for my son, English and math were very difficult for him. And so where he did better was music and art and PE, so we let him talk about whatever part of school. What I'm going to encourage you to do, parents, is if you have a question, tell me something that made you proud today. I found for my son, it was really helpful if everyone at the table said, I was proud when, and gave him a model of saying it the right way. Because for the children who most need to improve their language, we let them answer with one word. And we say, tell me something that made you proud today, and he would just say, math. And say, well, what made you proud in math? The problems. Well, why? Why did the problems make you proud? I did them. And how did you do them? Good, well, so, okay, say that again. Today I was proud when I solved my problems well, and he'd repeat it back. So I started working out with him. I'm a runner, and I started taking him running with me. And we'd walk the dog, so my daughter wasn't there interrupting, or my spouse. and just took the dog for a walk, and I would say, so sweetheart, tell me about something funny that happened at school today. Something funny was when, and I'll say, I'll tell you something funny that happened in my day. Today, something funny that happened was, and then I'd say, now you tell me. Something funny that happened was, and he'd repeat it back. He didn't know that other mothers didn't make their sons speak with sentence frames. He just thought that's something all moms do. And when we had nephews and nieces came to visit from the Philippines, they said, wow, in your family, everybody eats a lot of vegetables at dinner. We have a garden. Everyone eats a lot of vegetables, and you speak with a lot of words at the dinner table. But partly, I found this was necessary for my son. And I knew to do this as a teacher, but often we don't do it with our own children. So really modeling for them how you want them to be responding back and showing them how you want them to do that. So if you say, tell me about something interesting you learned or you did in school today, say, today I learned about, and get them to say it, the whole thing, rather than just having them say butterflies. Say instead, today I learned something very interesting about butterflies. Get them to say the whole comment. What I'm going to urge you to is to avoid using everyday words. Like, I can't say it in English or Vietnamese or Mandarin, but in English people say guys, stuff, things all the time. And those are very general words. Like, instead of saying, Mommy, the mail carrier is at the door with a package for you, you need to sign a form, my son would say, Mom, there's a guy with some stuff, you got to do something. And then I'd come to the door, oh, and where we live, we kind of live in the country, and because I write books, I get a lot of packages that come that are books to my office. And our UPS delivery man, he is so funny. He's from the country Haiti, and I speak French, and in Haiti, they speak French. So his name, I said something, and I pronounced his name correctly in French, and he said to me, so you speak French? And I said, I do. So now, whenever he comes, about 4 years ago, he knocked on our door, and it was Christmas. At Christmas holiday, my son thought it was Christmas packages coming from his aunt or uncles. So he's like, Mom, hurry. The guy's here, there's a guy here. You gotta sign something. There's a box. So I walked out and I said, oh, it's the UPS delivery man with a special package for me and a form to sign. And he's like, yeah, whatever, you know. So I said, okay, the UPS delivery man's name is Antoine. Why don't you say the UPS delivery man, Antoine, is here with a package for you and a form to sign. My son said it. And then Antoine said, and now you say, thank you, Antoine. You know, and so we did this. So now, whenever I'm running and the UPS truck goes by, he's like, Professor Kinsella, are you still torturing children, making them speak in complete sentences? And so here he came, and I told him about my son. So he'll always, whenever he sees my son, he's like, Juan Carlos, how are you doing? Complete sentence, please. And so it's just become a big joke, you know. And my son's like, yeah, my mom, you know, she tells everybody I have to speak a lot, you know. But another thing is whether you're speaking to your child in English or another language, make them use precise words. Instead of saying, can you give me that? Say, can you hand me the stapler? You know, or I want more of that. Say, I would like some more soup. Make them say the words. And another thing is get your child to speak up. My son is a bit shy, and he speaks softly. So I really worked with him, because he would always look down when people talked to him, and part of that was cultural, that he'd learned speaking to older people or doctors or the director of his children's home to look down and speak softly. But in the United States, you need to look at someone when you speak to them. It shows respect, and it shows you are listening. So I taught him, when someone comes and talks to you, a teacher, your principal, the police officer, our neighbor, your grandfather, you need to look at the eyes. So what we said is ojos, ojos, and public voice, to really project your voice. So to this day, over Christmas vacation, we were shopping and getting groceries, and I saw a man coming in soccer attire with soccer uniform on, and I said, I kind of remember this gentleman, and I don't think he's coming to buy mangoes. He's smiling. I think he's coming to talk to you. Wasn't that your coach when you were about 7? And I said, he's coming right now, and you know he wants to talk to you, not me. What do you need to do? Even though my son just turned 17, he went like this. Ojos, ojos, public voice, you know, like project my voice and eyes, you know, eyes to there. So whenever you can too, try to get your children to speak in complete sentences. So even you're getting ice cream. Instead of just saying, what do you want, and having them say fresa or strawberry, have them say, I would prefer strawberry, or I would really like vanilla. Get them to say a complete sentence. And another funny story with my own son, he is a runner. And we have a friend named Marisela Peña, who is a top runner, and she ran in Mexico on the Olympic team. And she lives in our town. And she started a running club for children to make them be great athletes. So my son started running with her when he was 4 years old. And last summer, she took a group of 20 students that were really strong runners, boys and girls, and they were competing in a contest, maybe 1/2 hour from our home. They were competing in San Rafael. And it was very hot. And they had tried very hard. So I told them, I have an idea. What if we stop and get some ice cream in this town? Because I know they have Baskin Robbins, the 31 flavors. And in our small town, we just have Rite Aid, and the ice cream at Rite Aid. So I said, what if we stop at the Baskin Robbins? And they were all, yeah! So we get in and stop, and these 20 kids come in, and they're all hot and sweaty. And I said, well, let's be polite, because there were 2 senior citizens there getting their ice cream cone. And the people working with 2 teenagers, they were only about 16, 17, and all these kids came in. And I said, okay, first, you cannot ask for samples, because there are 20 of us, because they always want to try everything. And I said, we're going to be here for an hour in line if you do that, so no samples, and you can have 2 flavors. You can have 2 flavors, but you need to be rather quick. And you all need to say, may I please have? May I please have vanilla and Rocky Road? And no one's going to get up and go, vanilla, Rocky Road, and say the name of the cone. I'd like it on a sugar cone. And after they give it to you, what are you going to say? Thank you. So when I got up to pay, the senior citizens that were there, the grandparents, were like, are you a teacher or something? And the young teenagers working said, yeah, are you like a teacher or something? And my son said, she's a super teacher. And she's a teacher all day. And he said, but she's a really good teacher. She's a really good teacher. And so on that note, I think every day you can make the most important differences in your child's life with language, but you need to try to really get your child to speak as much as possible, but you need to model the best language for them. Using precise words. I worked with my brothers and sisters and our neighbors and babysitters to make him talk. Say things. Don't just point or say, I want that. Say, may I please have. So using precise language. And it will make a big difference. One thing, for example, use strong words, like don't say, you need to eat a good snack. Say, we need to have a healthy snack. Or instead of saying, do you have all your things for school? Say, do you have your materials? Do you have your supplies? Instead of just saying, do you have homework? Say, what kinds of assignments do you have? What kinds of projects? And, you know, I want you to concentrate or focus instead of try harder. Use strong words when you talk to your child so that they're learning them. And I'll end by saying the number one factor that affects children's school achievement from 3rd grade up is how many words they know, how many words they understand, and how many words they can use. So you are their parents. You are the most important people in their life for modeling language. Every day, my goal with children and my own son is what can I expose him to? I try to use the most beautiful, elegant language I can when I speak. Also, how can I enrich him? Can I give him a few cool words this week? Because all children love to use smart words, but also equip. My father was a pilot in the Navy. My older brother is a Navy captain, and my son wants to be a Navy captain. He wants to be a pilot or in the Coast Guard, and he wants to be a leader. So I need to give him important words. What are the kinds of words you need if you want to be a leader? So every day, work hard to equip your children with as much language as you can. And I'm going to urge you to talk to your children's teachers. I would go meet with my son's teachers and beg them, please, give him a partner in class who is a boy or girl who is calm, kind, and a talker. Someone who can help him and talk to him. Also, even though he's shy, make him talk in class. Call on him. Call on him and get him to have a friend to help him, but call on him. Don't let him say, no, I don't want to. And give him help. Give him language to encourage him, but also when he does participate, don't just say, good job. Tell him, thank you. That was a very thoughtful contribution. Really praise the child when they try. So this is a lot for one evening, but I hope you've gotten a few ideas. And if any of you have any specific questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them, but I'd be more comfortable if I could come down here. When I was with the teachers, I spoke to the teachers for about 1 hour, and I was giving them suggestions on how they can really help children learn more vocabulary and speak more in class. But I think we as parents need to partner with the teachers and really make sure that the teachers know we want our child. Like, push my child, help my child. Don't just say it's okay because he's shy, or it's okay because he's an English learner. All the more, what can we do to help him or her to really have that chance? Because being someone who's an excellent communicator, who can speak like a bell, I found out he speaks French too. We were talking before. He speaks multiple languages, and that's not his job, a translator. He works with computers. So he's doing this tonight as a special job. Being someone who's a strong communicator is going to be important, no matter what they want to do. And you have the opportunity, many of you, to help your child learn another language besides English. So I would encourage you to do that. I would encourage you. Please.
Listening to you and all the things that you are telling us, the way we have to talk to our kids,
Yes.
I noticed that I need to learn too because I'm talking that way. Can you give me that?
Yeah. Well, we all do. We all do.
It's gonna be a little hard, to be honest, because I just get that way. So maybe that.
Well, we all do. We all get very lazy, believe me. I've had many lazy parent moments. But I notice, because my daughter is the type of child, and you have children like this too, that they learn even if the teaching isn't good. They are able to learn on their own. And that she's just very strong. But my son is more precious and vulnerable, was more vulnerable, and needed a lot of help. And he had a difficult start, and he needed a lot of help to succeed in school, and he wasn't very confident. But when I noticed, when I went to volunteer, when he was in kindergarten or first grade, he would say things like, "That please," but because he was polite, they wouldn't say, "No, it's called a stapler." Say, "May I have the stapler, please?" They would just give it to him. Or like, "I need that." "Oh, that is, a hole punch." Say, "I need the hole punch," and make him say the word back. Or, "I did it." "What did you finish?" Say, "I finished my project." Make him say it. But he was always getting all the beautiful assistants to work for him and other students, but we found often he could go the whole day saying this, that, no, yes, and not really answering, or just saying one word. And you saw the children here. We like to imagine that we are brave astronauts. The teacher would let him, "What do you like to imagine?" Policeman. And not saying, "No, say it like your classmates did. We like to imagine that we are policemen." Use the whole sentence. So I think of it as being mindful, that just what are small changes I can make today with being more specific? Just what are small changes? And every time I say things or guy, I switch and say, "It's actually the mailman," or "Actually, that is the crossing guard." And if I say, "I need to get some stuff from the store," I need to get some groceries, like vegetables and milk, to just stop yourself. Because it's easy with a child who's very strong not to worry, but if you have a young child or a child who's going to need extra help, to really be as specific as you can and, talk to them almost like you're at a job interview. You want to impress with your most specific language every day. So, please. Please. To complete sentence. Right. Those are really good questions. Right. So I try not to torture, children, but to reward, but to help them. Many of them don't understand that, they're used to answering in one word. What kind of fruit do you want? Bananas. What kind of cereal do you want? Cheerios. They just say a word, but they don't know any other way but in school, if they answer like that, maybe they answer one word, but they're expected to write complete sentences and very long paragraphs. So saying, some of the time I want you to really be, flexing your language muscles and using strong language, to say it like a scholar. So if I say, what type of fruit should we have for dessert tonight? To let them say, we should have strawberries for dessert tonight. Or what type of yogurt do you prefer? I prefer vanilla. Get them and say, I prefer vanilla. What do you prefer? And say, okay, you tell me. I prefer mango. Show them what you're talking about. Because when we just say complete sentences, it's like, oh. And, I say, think about it. You're saying you want to go to Stanford? You want to be an astronaut? You want to own, I had a little girl 2 weeks ago tell me she wants to have the best hair salon in Los Angeles, and she wants to do Rihanna, Beyonce, all these movie stars' hairs. And I said, well, I can tell you, all those stars have attitude. So you need to really say it like a scholar with them. So Beyonce, what do you prefer today? How can I assist you? It can't just be, so girl, what do you need? And so they're just like, you're right, but just think about their dreams and the way language connects with that. So for our son now, he's not so much about college, but he wants to be a pilot or be in the Navy or the Coast Guard or firefighter, and say, you want to be the head of that team. You need to be someone who can really speak clearly, really be a leader every day, with whoever you're with. And I also praise. Something that's important is if you're grandparents, if you have grandparents, older children helping, I talk to them about it. Help him say a whole sentence. Don't torture him at the dinner table, but to say, tell me more about your scout trip. What did you enjoy? What was the most exciting part? Were there any scary parts while you were camping? To really help them, because sometimes it's difficult if you're making them speak more and then other people are just, allowing them to be sloppy, if you will. Please.
English is not my mother tongue.
Right.
So how am I able to help my kids to use the right word? Because my vocabulary is limited, but I'm very willing to help them and to try.
What is your home language? Mandarin. And so the question is relevant, probably to many parents. Mandarin is her first language, and she is not as confident or advanced in English. So how can she help her child be more precise? First, do you speak to your child in Mandarin?
Mandarin
And English. When you speak Mandarin, you bring out your best Mandarin. You use your very strongest Mandarin. And in English, try your very best. But I find just everyday things, like instead of saying things or stuff or people, say words like saying who were you with today? And say, oh, your classmate Jenna, or oh, your fellow Girl Scout Elena. Use the words, because we're not talking super advanced words, but just everyday things that are precise, to be specific with them. Tell me more about your homework today. Can you explain your assignments? What's the most challenging assignment? What's the easiest? Just try to use as many precise words as you can. I would recommend. Please.
Yeah, I'm the same, like my primary
Right.
language is Spanish. And I remember in my school, for example, for us to learn new words, they usually give us, like, for example, 10 words and then look it up in the dictionary.
Right.
What do you think is the best method for kids, like, for example, send some words to look it up in the dictionary. He's like, oh my God, that's too much.
Right.
So he gets lost in the dictionary because there are too many pages.
You know what, that's a very sensitive question. It's what do you do if you want your child to look up some words? Dictionaries are difficult for children, especially if the dictionary was not written for children. I have some favorite dictionaries. There's one, it's published by Longman, Longman. And you can go online and buy it from Amazon. There's the Longman Elementary Dictionary. And I helped write it because I was frustrated that the dictionaries were not good for elementary children. So it has clear explanations, good pictures, and it has a thesaurus in the back. So if your son is writing and he's in 3rd grade and he keeps saying, the picnic was fun, we did fun things, we did fun stuff, the food was good. It's like, let's find a better word than good for the food. So you look up good and it'll give you other words like delicious, And so it's published by Longman, Longman, and if you just Google that, they have a lot of dictionaries. I have a big vocabulary, but I love learning new words. So I'm always have a dictionary there, so if I hear someone using something, they have good dictionaries for parents. And they have a good Spanish-English dictionary also, and a good Mandarin-English dictionary as well. So that is helpful. That would be helpful. Yes?
Do you have any resources, like, I used to do Toastmasters.
Right.
Toastmasters stuff.
Yes.
Is there something similar like that with children? I know that you have this children's chapter, but other than Toastmasters, are there like smaller clubs that?
That's a really good question. And our colleague here, she said she belonged to Toastmasters, and it's around the world. And it's people who get together and they practice doing speeches and they do presentations. I don't know of one for children, but I think it would be a great idea. In high schools, in many high schools, they have a debate team. And when I was in high school, I was on the speech and debate team. It's very common at high school. And I would imagine here in Silicon Valley that your high schools, because they're so competitive, I'm sure they have a debate team and speech team. There's also something called academic decathlon. There's students that debate and compete about academic topics, and it's all public speaking. But I haven't heard of that for 7-year-olds. But yes?
Aside from the Longman Dictionary, do you have any suggestions for parents who want to learn new vocabulary?
You know what? The question was a very good one. Aside from the Longman Dictionary, do you have any recommendations for parents around vocabulary to help your children? I'm going to grab from my briefcase. I brought to show the teachers. Because my son's vocabulary was so weak, I used to refer to it as Swiss cheese, English. Do you know the cheese, when you buy Swiss cheese, it has holes in it? Because he's very polite, and if he was eating dinner at a friend's house or with his soccer team having a picnic, someone would say, John Carlos, would you like some pizza, more pizza? No, but thank you for offering. He was very polite, and people would think, or he'd say, may I have another slice of watermelon, please? And people are like, oh, wow, what a polite little boy. And he is polite, and he's very kind and very helpful. But because we taught him really good manners, and because he needed it to survive, but often people don't realize, because he's so polite in his manners, that he actually has a lot of gaps in his English. So then his coach would be saying, or like in Boy Scouts, like, he doesn't seem to understand directions in this world because you just stand up there and blah, 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 blah. He's an English learner, and they didn't realize that English wasn't his first language, or that he'd only been in the country a few years. And they're like, oh, well, he's so polite. And it's like, well, yeah, but then when you keep talking to him, you'll start realizing he needs to learn a lot more English. But I wrote a vocabulary curriculum for elementary and middle school called the Academic Vocabulary Toolkit. And I'm going to grab, I brought a couple because I thought some teachers would ask me, because I think, and it's inexpensive, you can get it off Amazon. It is a really good curriculum that you could look at to get ideas. Did you see the lessons she was teaching with Imagine? That's what it was. So there are words you need for academic success, like words to compare, words to explain, words to discuss cause-effect. There are words you need for writing and for speaking in school. And we just wrote the lessons for kindergarten, first, and second grade. And we're using them in a research project. In fact, Franklin McKinley School District in San Jose is using them. So we're going to publish those, but we've been having great success. And the teacher you saw in kindergarten, they are using it. So we have classes where every child speaks Spanish. We have classes in San Jose where every child speaks Vietnamese, where they're using it. And we found the children who are using that curriculum, their writing, their reading, and their language scores are doing better than all the other children that are getting it in these classes. So there are words you need for school success, and to understand directions and to be able to write. I'm going to bring, I think it would be good, even as a parent, like I have a nephew who's autistic, and he has special needs, but he's super smart. And now he's 14, but when he was like 8 years old, he was already reading advanced books. And my niece, his mother, we were getting together as a family, and he would always be by himself, reading, not interacting with anyone. And so I came for a visit, and we were celebrating his grandmother's birthday. And we're all sitting around talking, and I was talking to two of my nieces who are teenagers and talking about college. And so then all of a sudden the boy, Jonathan is his name, he came and he was standing there behind me in the chair. And his mother said, "Jonathan, do you want to sit down and join the conversation?" And he said, no. She goes, "Wouldn't you like to sit down and join them?" He said, no. He goes, "But I really appreciate hearing Aunt Kate," my name is Kate, Aunt Kate speak. She uses so many vocabulary words. And I just learned too that I have never heard before. So they're like, and he looked them up. He was like, "I already looked them up. I like the way she talks," and everything. And I was like, "Thank you, Jonathan." But children like to learn new words. So I'm going to grab these books to show you what they look like. And let me see. In fact, I'll leave one. This is a copy of third grade. And if you look at it, it's called the Academic Vocabulary Toolkit, because I tell students vocabulary words are like tools. You have to have these tools in your toolkit if you want to be a successful student. And many words are not that important. But these are the kinds of words you need for writing, you need for reading, you need to understand directions on tests, and they're the kinds we use for presentations. They're the language of comparing, argument. So the way the words are organized, and the students are introduced to the word, then they practice using them in speaking and writing. I would do a lot of sentences like this with my own son to get him to practice, because this is much better than telling children to draw a picture and write their own sentence for homework. It's much better to give them more guidance on we're already helping you write a really strong academic sentence. I'll leave this one with the school district, and you can take a look. It's published by National Geographic Learning, so there's beautiful pictures, but it's not expensive. And there is a teacher's guide, so you can see what good answers are to help your child. But something like this, I find when we do lessons with this, the children are saying, can we do more? Can we do more? It's not boring, it's fun. And they're learning interesting words and they're writing about them and speaking. And this would be something I think would help you get ideas of the kinds of words your children should learn and that you could help them with too. So this I'll leave with someone here. I'm hoping that I'll have a chance to come speak to teachers in the district. They seemed very interested, because I'd love to help the elementary and middle school teachers and sometime meet you again, and I'd love to come in the classroom and do some lessons to show the teachers how to do it well too. All right, thank you so much. You've been so attentive this evening. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. Good evening.